So in an ideal world, we would all have drivers that are the most forgiving, that we can still get huge amounts of distance and speed out of. But as a lot of us already know, there's a huge trade-off when it comes to looking at forgiveness and the ability to get ball speeds and distance. However, TaylorMade are saying that they have developed new technology to give us the most forgiving driver at 10K MOI without sacrificing any distance, any speed, so being able to get that ultimate combination of extra forgiveness and extra distance. So new up for 2024, the TaylorMade range of drivers is the Qi10s. Now that stands for the quest for 10K inertia. A lot of the drivers that we see today, even the ones that are quite forgiving, have got stuck at around the 8,000, 9,000 MOI range, but TaylorMade are saying they've managed to break into the 10K MOI to give us these ultra forgiving drivers. Now make sure that you stay tuned to the end of this video because there is something a little bit misleading with these drivers that I will reveal to you guys at the end of the video. So what do we mean when we say MOI? The MOI is the moment of inertia of a club, which basically just refers to how forgiving that club is. When we're looking at current drivers, if we saw a driver with a 9,000 MOI, we would be probably thinking, oh, that's pushing on the upper limits, that's a really forgiving driver. The problem with getting drivers to be really forgiving is that you essentially need to make them really big, which combats the amount of speed and distance you can get with them. However, TaylorMade are now saying they're hitting this 10K MOI, but they're also bringing in technology that helps to keep ball speeds so you're not losing out, you're not compromising on anything with the Qi10 drivers. So there's 3 drivers in the range. Now the naming convention has changed quite a bit from what we saw last year with the TaylorMade Stealth 2 drivers. So starting off with the Qi10 Max. Now the Max is standing for maximum forgiveness, maximum straightness. This is meant to be the club that is easiest to square up and the most forgiving out of the range. It's 8mm longer than the Stealth, whereas if we go to the Qi10, this is only 4mm longer. So it's still forgiving, it's not quite as forgiving as the Max. Going on to the Qi10 LS, this is what we would have expected to see from the Stealth 2 Plus last year. So this is the low spin model, but it is adjustable so that you can have it as a draw or a fade bias, which I do quite like because it's appreciating the fact that players who have a fade bias still might be low handicap players that are looking for that low spin driver. So just as a quick summary, because I know it is confusing, there's a lot going on here. We've got the Qi10 LS, this is the low spin adjustable driver. We've got the Qi10 Max, which is maximum straightness, maximum forgiveness, and then we've got the Qi10, which is in the middle. In terms of looks, there are some quite big changes with the Qi10 range compared to the Stealth. A big difference across the range for all 3 of these drivers is obviously the face. We haven't got that bright red face from the Stealth anymore. It's a bit more of a downplayed navy blue. It's not quite as in your face, and the top of the club is very plain. You barely see any amount of detail when you're looking down at the club. However, if we switch to the bottom, in my opinion, there's quite a lot going on here with the different colors, the silvery details. I'm not super keen on the amount of detail on the bottom of these clubs, but I like the fact that when you stand at address, you don't even have to look at any of that. As I mentioned earlier, each of these club heads is different size. If we compare back to the Stealth 2, which had quite a specific shape to it, that's more like we're still seeing with the Qi10 LS, the similar kind of shape to the Stealth driver. However, now with the Qi10 and the Qi10 Max, the actual size of the club head is a lot bigger, it's a lot more drawn back. It's meant to inspire more confidence and obviously help with that extra forgiveness. As we mentioned, the Qi10 Max is 8mm longer than the Stealth 2 and the Qi10 is 4mm longer. So a much bigger head shape in this side of the range compared to the Qi10 LS and the Stealth 2 driver we've seen previously. So how have TaylorMade reached that 10K MOI? The main elements of the tech are that TaylorMade have saved weight in certain areas so that they can redistribute it into extreme locations. For example, the carbon crown is now bigger, covering 97% of the top of the club, which saves up to 5 grams that can be repositioned into the corners and perimeter for extra stability. They've also reinvented the head shape, with the Qi10 being 4mm bigger than the Stealth 2 and the Qi10 Max being 8mm bigger, and that max size coming in at 460cc, 9% larger than the Stealth 2 at address, and really pushing the legal boundaries of how big this club head can be. There are obviously other elements of technology that we've seen before in the TaylorMade clubs. If you want to know a little bit more about that, make sure to check out my written reviews for these clubs over at the Golfalot website. So first of all, testing these out on the course, we went over to Stockport Golf Club so that I could try these out. We ended up hitting each of the driver from the same tee so that I could see the difference between each model. And to be honest, it was quite simple, the findings with it. The LS model, more often than not, I was hitting slightly out to the right. The Qi10 was going the most central for me, and the Qi10 Max was going slightly off to the left. However, when I say the left and the right, I am meaning just onto the semi-rough rather than being in the trees or in trouble either side. The distribution of each of these was very, very low out on the golf course. But interestingly enough, the shot that I hit the straightest and the furthest, there was one particular shot with the Qi10 LS. Now obviously that club is going to be the harder one to play because of the low spin, but it meant that when I did really catch it, it was coming out as the best performing driver out of the three for that one shot. TaylorMade have said that Nelly Corder has been fitted and will be playing the Qi10 Max because she's the same as me. She does not want to see the ball going off to the right. She wants a nice draw shape to her shot, and as I was finding, that is exactly what the Qi10 Max helps to do. Essentially, out on the golf course, I just found these drivers really easy to hit. In true TaylorMade style, they've got that nice, modern, muted sound to them. And to be honest, I was just stood over the ball thinking there was so little chance of me hitting these in any trouble because I knew that they were always going to be forgiving and just helping me keep the ball in play no matter what. So before going into the data, I just want to give you guys a bit of a benchmark. When I'm swinging my driver around 90 mile an hour club speed, I would be expecting around 130 miles per hour ball speed with an average carry of around 210 and a total of around 235. With those distances, I would be pretty happy for my driver. Now, something just to bear in mind is that with the TaylorMade drivers, TaylorMade send the drivers with the stock shafts that they expect to be right for the type of player that is playing that driver head. So what I mean by that is that in the low spin driver, I had a 65 gram stiff shaft. In the Qi10, I had a 50 gram stiff shaft, and in the Qi10 Max, I had a 50 gram regular. So obviously with the Qi10 and the Qi10 Max, I would be able to swing those a little bit faster, so we were getting higher ball speeds, which was expected with them being slightly lighter. So going into some numbers, when I first heard that these drivers were up at that 10K MOI mark, I have to admit that I was expecting to see some decrease in distance just because of that trade-off with distance and forgiveness not really complementing each other. However, the stats show that these drivers are long. I was getting really good amounts of distance through each of the three models, but if we take a look at each one individually, starting off with the Qi10, at a ball speed of 133, I was carrying this on average 214 yards with a total of 239. So that's pretty good, sort of pushing towards the upper end of what I would like to see with a driver. But then really impressively with the TaylorMade Qi10 Max, at a ball speed of 131, so slightly lower on the ball speed, I was carrying this 216 yards with an average total of 243 yards. Obviously hitting that slightly more draw shape, we are going to get a little bit more distance, but the thing I was loving seeing with this is that even though it's a draw, it's not an uncontrollable draw, it's still very much in play and with that added bit of distance. Finally, with the low spin driver, at a slightly lower ball speed, but like we said, heavier shaft, so it was a lower club speed as well. At 130 ball speed, I was carrying this an average of 213 with a total of 240. So again, really pushing on that upper end of the distance that I would like to see with those club speeds. So coming on to a bit of an overall verdict for these drivers. To be honest, as I said earlier, I'm not completely sold on the name and this design over the bottom. It doesn't sort of jump off the shelf to me straight away. However, I do much prefer the blue face to the red face that we've seen in the Stealth before, and I really like that bigger club head. Just inspires a lot more confidence stood over the ball, which was something I was really missing with the Stealth 2 and Stealth. Obviously, each of these drivers have performed really well, keeping me always in the fairway or the semi on every single hole. There's just loads of consistency, loads of forgiveness, and a good amount of distance too. So interestingly, they have kept the price of the Qi10 and Qi10 Max the same as the Stealth 2 with an RRP of £499. The RRP of the Qi10 LS is that little bit more expensive with the adjustability, so that comes in at an RRP of £529. Now, as we're at the start of 2024, there hasn't been loads of drivers released yet, but we do have the prices for the Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke drivers with an RRP of £569. So the Qi10 and the Qi10 Max are coming in at £70 cheaper than that, and given how they've performed in every category, I would put those as pretty good value for money. Now, there is one thing that we need to address, which is something that I don't quite agree with on these drivers. Now, obviously, the range is called the Qi10 Drivers. However, there's only one of these drivers that reaches that 10K MOI, and that is the Qi10 Max. The Max was standing for maximum forgiveness because it's the only one that is actually up at 10K MOI. However, one of the things that TaylorMade did say is that they're expecting over 50% of the sales of these drivers to be in the Qi10 Max model. This is the driver that they want everybody to try out first. Whether you're a scratch or a 30 handicapper, they're saying that this is going to be a good driver fit for nearly everyone. So you've got a whole range of players, including up to Nelly Korda playing the Qi10 Max. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed my review of the TaylorMade Qi10 drivers. If you have, make sure to leave a like on this video and also make sure that you're subscribed to the Golfalot YouTube channel so that you don't miss any videos from us in the future. As always, if you want to know a little bit more about any of these drivers, you can check out my full written review over on the Golfalot website. Thank you guys for watching and subscribe for more.